Hello and welcome everybody to the latest edition of Midweek Matters. No cheese again, unfortunately, but Charlie, you're back from Brisbane.
I'm back from Brisbane. Cheese, he's got a tough pre-season schedule. The Roosters, they train you hard. You don't get much time off.
And the buy round's got pretty tight windows.
Windows, yeah. So, Cheese, you got to be better, mate. Make yourself available for this.
Where's his priority at? Seriously.
It's madness.
Yeah, who was carrying him through that injury last year? Yeah. He came here, got all the support he needed.
Stuck by him, brought him up because he moved to Sydney and he was sort of like a lost man at one stage, wasn't he? He's like, where do I live? Am I going to live in Bondi? You know, am I going to live here? We said, hey mate, we're going to get a podcast studio right by where you train and make your life easy. So you don't need to worry about that.
Exactly.
So we
bend over backwards for him. And
we do.
This is how he replaces us.
You do anyway. I don't always bend over backwards for him, but yeah, just got back from Brisbane.
Yeah, how was it?
It was good. It was good there for the cricket. There was a little bit of chaos though. One of the nights.
Okay.
So you know the I'll say the hotel, it doesn't really matter. You know the Western Hotel? We've stayed there before for you know the lobby bar they've got down there?
Yes.
So they've got this big sort of glass windows down the bottom
I know what
there.
you mean. Yes, I do know what you mean.
So we were down there having a drink after one of the day's plays and everyone's feeling great. Bought a few bottles of wine on the go. We got a couple of ex-cricketers there, Brad Haddon, who you know, famous wicketkeeper, Cal Ferguson, another ex-cricketer, Gus Warland from Triple M, and a couple other different off-air people like myself. And we were just sitting there having a nice drink, and then we heard this massive bang, like right near us. And we're like, geez, what's that?
Like from inside the hotel,
just outside. And then we heard another bang, like even louder, and we were like, holy fuck, that's gunfire. So then we have run to the lift area to try and get safety. And then we've heard this car screech away, and all these people start sprinting into the hotel lobby. And there's been a drive-by shooting about 5 meters up the road from where we were sitting.
Seriously?
And then so we ran to the lifts, and then we heard the car sort of drive away. So then we sort of said, oh, it's safe. So then some people like just went and hid in their rooms. We had a lot of bottles of wine sitting there, so we didn't want to leave them behind. So we went back to go get it. I'd left my phone there. Other people left their phone there. So then we go back and we're sitting there and we're just having a couple of drinks. So it's kind of calmed down. We're not going to go outside, but we're sort of safe there. But then in comes like 3 people, one with like shrapnel in their elbow and another person with like shrapnel in their knee. So they're bleeding a little bit, but it's not like bags. It must have been a shotgun. And they come in. They sort of calm themselves down, and police come, and then no one's died, thankfully.
So these two geezers have been shot?
Yeah, so they weren't the targets though. So one guy got shot in the chest. He survived though. He's in hospital. He's fine. And another person got shot in the foot, and they've survived also. But mate, it was wild. The 2 people got arrested as well. So they drove the car. It was a gangland style thing. They took the car, drove into another suburb, burnt it, but the police had the trop on them the whole time, tracked them down, arrested them. And I think there was one person in the car that managed to get away. But it was wild, yeah. And it was the people that got the shrapnel in, they were a family of 3, and it was a son's 18th birthday, and they'd gone to the pub for the first time, have a drink, standing by getting a kebab at the end of the evening, and they nearly got shot. It was chaos.
That's insane.
Chaos.
I mean, first thought is, if you want to do a drive-by, do you do it in the middle of a city centre?
Yeah, it's bizarre, isn't it?
Cameras everywhere. Like, you'd be able to track the car.
It was idiotic.
Like, it's just... like, I can't imagine that being pre-planned. That must have just been, hey, we've seen person X down by here. Yeah. Get down now. Yeah. Now's our chance. But...
it was crazy.
That is.
It was interesting to see how people react in those moments. Though. There was one guy I work with who I won't name, but he's obviously an idiot. He actually, when the shot happened, when everyone ran inside, he went outside and had a look at it to see what it was. And then the cars come back and driven past him. So he's gone out there. And when we got back down to the hotel, he's out there having a cigarette. I'm like, what a fucking idiot this guy is. And then Gus Warland, who people might know, if they, people should know, he became sort of the hero. He sort of was ushering people into the lift. Oh. Self-described hero, but ushered people lift. He took a family up to his hotel room because there was a lady who'd run in with her baby. It was like 11 o'clock at night, but she had a baby with her, and he took them up there and housed them. And he was sending us messages telling us to go back to our rooms. And Brad Haddon was hiding under the sofa. And at one point, he realised he needed his phone, so he was like, "Can someone hand me my phone?" And was like, had his hand up in the air, reaching out. But yeah, everyone was safe, which was good because otherwise wouldn't be able to talk about it. But
you probably wouldn't. I think I've got an educated guess on who the person who ran out. Maybe do I know this person?
No, you wouldn't. It was a tech guy. So guys, it was just a tech guy.
Yeah, I thought I knew. I thought the cigarette was a.
Oh, Danganane. Were you thinking? Yeah. Danganane was there actually. He was there.
He'd be great to commentate.
He was cool. Oh, do you know what was funny about Danganane? We went and played pokies the other night, and Danganane sort of commentates pokies. So like we were, I wasn't in the room at the time, but pokies were near us, and you could hear him going, "Oh yes, that's a good one. Goodbye."
That's brilliant. That is brilliant.
But so apart from that, mate, Brisbane was good.
That's a heavy story, Charlie. On the family with the 18th birthday, like, what did you do on your 18th birthday? Like,
and they started tucking into drinks about 5 minutes after. They had to get interviewed by police, and then straight away they started sipping beers and
you gotta calm the nerves.
Yeah,
mate, if there's a time to have a beer, it's after that.
Yeah.
None of this going back to your hotel room.
No.
Stay out.
And we actually ended up going out. Me and Tom Beers, who works at Triple M as well, we went out until about 4 a.m. that night. Just because you never know when it's all going to end, so you may as well enjoy yourself.
Well, I think, the fact that a drive-by happened, police are going to be there. There's not going to be another one.
No, exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, there's never a safer time to be out.
Yes. It's true. The odds of it happening slim to none. The odds of it happening twice, absolutely impossible. Yeah.
Well, not impossible, but yeah.
But slimmer than slim to none.
Decreasing.
Well, let's talk rugby league.
Yes, let's do it. Let's get into it, Charlie.
Raymond Faitala-Mariner, a former Dogs captain. He was Dogs captain last year even, so not that long ago. And
I think club captain, not necessarily
not on-field captain, because I think at the time he was maybe coming off the bench as well. But Cameron Serrato made him the captain, and within 12 months almost, he's leaving the club. He's heading to your other former club, the Dragons, on a 2-year deal. Yeah,
look, I think the writing's been on the wall for Ray for a number of months now. I think back, it was reported that he was told not to come to pre-season. He had a meeting with Gus where things were hashed out, and but I just think if you look at it, sometimes situations are just too hard to come back from. Looking at the makeup of the Bulldogs squad, I think Ray preferably is an edge player. He's got Jacob Preston and Viliami Kikau that have locked in those edge spots. Then lock forward is still to be determined, but plenty of candidates for that position. And then even the bench, I think Ray is probably looking at it, and the staff are probably looking at it, going, "Well, he won't feature in our 17." And obviously, the things that have happened in the past go against him. Flip side to the Dragons, Flano likes his experienced players. Like we've seen that. I think when in his best years at Cronulla. Married in that youth and experience, so he likes players that aren't going to be a particular drain on his resources, like trying to teach them the game. So I think that the main thing for the Dragons is hopefully Ray is fit. He's struggled with injuries over the past couple of seasons, so hopefully for Ray he can stay fit and a new fresh start for him at the Dragons.
You just touched on something before, though, that he was told to not come to pre-season training. I think that was in November that story broke. So I reckon at that point, it's sort of pretty clear. Yeah. Even though they hashed out, he managed to come back and train. It was always obvious that they were trying to find him a club, and he was trying to find himself a new club.
Yeah, more than likely, Charlie. I mean, you have to, okay, we're going to fresh start, but deep down, it's a. I don't know the ins and outs of it or exactly what happened. But yeah, difficult one to come back from. But a fresh start for Ray. I don't think anyone at the Dogs is going to be, too disappointed that he's gone. With all due respect, with his contribution over the past couple of seasons and what's happened. But I think at the Dragons, if they can get Ray at his best, he can be a healthy acquisition and do some positive things down there.
He probably starts for them as well. You got Jaden Sewell will have one of the back row spots.
He'll be one edge, and then the other edge is Benny Murdoch-Masilla, a couple of young lads there, the Couchman brothers.
Yeah, so he probably gets that spot, or it'll be a good chance of fighting for that spot anyway. Yeah,
and then I imagine DeBellin or Baird will play lock forward. So there's some there's spots available for him. I believe, and I think it's just about keeping fit. He's really struggled with injuries throughout his whole career, to be fair. And at the age of like 30 now, just the injury concerns, and hopefully he can get some game time under his belt and play some decent football down there.
Fingers crossed. Well, while we're speaking about captains getting reshuffled, we may as well jump to the Cowboys. They've done Jason Taumalolo and Chad Townsend as captains. I think Townsend's less of a surprise. Townsend's less of a surprise. Off contract at the end of this year. The thoughts are he'll probably go to England. Whereas Jason Taumalolo, he's contracted until the end of 2027.
Strange. Timing strange as well. Like, I mean, there's probably never a good time to announce this, but, just after Christmas, this gets announced, not at the start of the preseason or going into the season. Look, it's a hard one, I guess. Todd Payton's assessed the situation. Look at Dearden obviously re-signed. Maybe that was it. They wanted to give it to Dearden, but wanted to wait for him to commit. I really like Ruben Cotter. He looks like one of those, he looks like a leader. Like when you observe the optics of it, is he gives those type of performances, and you can see him chatting in the huddle and whatnot. So, look, it's a funny one. I think that the Townsend thing you can sort of understand, but naturally you go with experienced halves. They come with a leadership role. It makes me question whether Chad Townsend will play every game for the Cowboys this year. I think for me, what this says is he won't be the starting halfback every single week. And I guess with Taumalolo, it's been the question for the last 3 seasons about how to get the best out of him. And maybe with this leadership role, they've decided, look, let's take that away. Let's not have Jason worrying about his leadership role, talk within the team, trying to direct. Just let him do his thing when he's on the football field. And also, the number of minutes and how long Jason's out there is always up for conjecture. And I think, obviously, he takes home a hefty paycheck due to that 10-year, $10 million contract he signed 6 years ago now. I think we'll see his role change a little bit more. Obviously, with the middle forwards that they already have, Ruben Cotter, Griffin Neem, to name a couple, some young back rows as well, which I think we may see come and play a little bit in the middle as well. I think we'll see Jason's game time come down a little bit, which, is going to be the talking point. If the Cowboys go poorly, it's going to be, why is Jason not there? But if they go well, it'll be a masterstroke. So I think that's what it is. I think we'll see less of Townsend this season. Taumalolo's role reduced, and we'll see more of Ruben Cotter, and obviously Tom Dearden signing a long-term deal there. It looks like they've made a path for him to be the future of the Cowboys. They've got a good young half there, actually. His name's Tom Duffy, and he played a bit of preseason last year, and he looked like he's a player who's got something in him. Obviously, he's still very, very young, so wouldn't be probably ready for a full year of first grade. Yeah, but they'll see him interchange. Dearden locked in to play in the half.
Yep.
Maybe even 7.
Yep.
I think Townsend's role will be significantly reduced.
It was interesting what Todd Payton said, though, because he has come out and said that the reason for the reshuffle is because these players will be gone in a couple of years, basically, is what he said. And that's strange to say when Jason Taumalolo is contracted for 4 more years if you include this year. So
yeah, wow, yeah.
I don't know if that's a sign maybe that Taumalolo is maybe being shopped around, because if the Cowboys are looking at their salary cap, they probably don't want Taumalolo taking up just under $1 million a year with the output he's giving them and with the players they've got coming through, particularly the young forwards they've got. Maybe they want to move that money somewhere else to get another half to pair with Dearden. But I think if a club sees something in Taumalolo, they could probably go and get him now.
Yeah, Charlie, I think you could be onto something there with Taumalolo. Look, I think we'll see his minutes reduced, and I think when you look at the makeup of the Cowboys roster, Jeremiah Nanai, Helam Luki, Fine Fioaki, even Leilua as well. Like maybe one of those three edge players that I mentioned previously may look to move into the middle. I think it's Helam Lukey that's heavily fancied by the Dragons, who are making a big play for him. But with Todd Payton saying something like that, you sort of connect the dots and you go, yeah, it appears as if they're planning for life after their premiership winning lock forward, which would be to be certainly some clubs, especially a few that spring to mind, the Dragons, the Bulldogs, that would go like, wow,
Tigers even.
Let's see, especially. I can't envisage a club paying $1 million for him. But if the Cowboys are willing to contribute, you can see some value in that.
Yeah, even if the Cowboys chuck in a few hundred, then you got a bargain. If they're paying 300, you got Taumalolo for 700 a year. If he can find anywhere near his best, like that's value for money. Because he's still a stud, even though he's playing. Even last year, he was playing really well, just playing limited minutes compared to what we normally expect from him, and also the stands he set himself. I mean, there were times when Taumalolo was talked about becoming an immortal.
Yeah,
and obviously
we get caught up in that, don't we? Where it's like, oh, he's got to do that every single year. It's bloody hard to play like that in the middle, especially his style. Hard to play that long, both in years and time on the field, time over the 80. Consistently for a long time, but I guess the role of the lock forward has changed quite a bit with ball playing ability, but Jason Taumalolo brings something that not many people can replicate.
Yeah, and he can play in the front, he can play in the middle, he can play front row, he can play. But the other Taumalolo's probably going to go down as one of the Cowboys' like top 5 players of all time. You got Thurston there. He might be number 2 even.
Yeah,
like Michael Morgan, great player. Matt Bowen, great player. But he might be. He might be probably their second best player, considering how long he's been in that club
and
as
the
well.
fact he won a premiership, he's been huge for them. So, look, I guess I wouldn't have agreed with you, but reading or hearing that from Todd Payton, sort of, I reckon there'll be some clubs looking around for season 2025 for Taumalolo.
While we're on that player movement side of things, I did produce a podcast the other day, which is called Footy Talk, which had Michael Chamis as a host on. And he presented numbers on the salary cap benchmarks for 2022. So basically the average salaries for the top 5 players in 2022. Now that was great that he did that, but I mean, the salary cap's changed a lot since 2022. So I've adjusted those numbers based on the 2022% increase we saw. And the average salary, I'll run you through the average salary for the top 5 players in each position. I think you'd be interested by it. Fullback, 1.15 million is the average for the top 5. Wingers, 550,000.
This is in 2024.
2024 now. Yep. Centers, 750,000. 5'8", 932,000. I thought that would be a bit more. I thought 5'8s would be close to $1 million. Halfbacks, this is very interesting. The average salary for a top 5 player, 1.34 million, which sounds like a lot. But it is obviously probably the most valuable position in the game. Props, just over $1 million. Hookers, only 750,000 for a spine player. And I don't know if that's due to them not being a huge depth of hookers at that top elite level. And maybe that's why the top 5 players are a bit lower. But 750,000, you think Harry Grant, he'd be maybe like you think. Api Coruscant, Damien Cook. But it's only 750. Second rower, 920,000, and locks, just over $1 million will be the average for a top 5 player. And why it's interesting is I think it pretty much paints a clear picture of why Jarome Luai wanted to be a halfback and not a 5'8". You're talking about a $400,000 a year difference between playing 5'8" and halfback.
It's clear the halves are where the money's at. I just wonder with those increases, Charlie, like, are you even underestimating the halfback? Because you've done each 22% increase on face value. So I think those values disproportionately, it's not, we're not in the equity game of equality and all positions get paid the same as what they did 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Like you would see an even bigger jump in the half. So I think when you look at the Jarome Luai deal, if he's going to play halfback for the Panthers, and you're saying that average is at 1.34, I think it's likely more due to the the lack of equality in the increases, like that not being shared out.
And the
like,
lack of depth of like top quality halfbacks, you think, as well?
I think the Tigers have got a bargain there.
I think they have.
Like, based off that, that's a sweet deal for the Tigers. Yeah, it sounds like a lot of money on paper, but when you break it down with that, it's not. They're not a team that's gone and had to pay overs. Like, I think Jerome probably could have gone for more. Or you think back where the Tigers were at, where they were looking to bring players in to make them the highest paid player in the game. I mean, you think like when they had that crack at Latrell Mitchell, like it was insane money they were throwing at him.
Yeah.
And they still couldn't land him.
Yeah.
So, a big tick for the Tigers. What is surprising is that dummy half money, the hooker. I think, the role of the hooker is so important, and I think someone would look at this, or you'd look at it and go, where can I add value to my team? Go and pay a little bit more for a hooker.
Yeah.
Get one in.
It's such an influential position.
Yeah, it is. Very interesting. Good work, Charlie.
That's all right, man. Anytime. But the other thing I should say,
well, you know what? Second rowers, not average, like based off your calculations, 9.20. That's a joke.
Yeah.
Like, I love edge back rowers, but that's.
And it's just the top 5 players.
Yeah.
The average is the top 5 players, I should say.
Well, basically, this is saying that your top 5 edge back rowers are basically 10 grand short of your top 5 5'8".
Yeah. It's crazy, isn't
it? That doesn't make sense.
No, it's crazy.
Now it's funny because obviously different teams put their salary cap different ways, and some would go, okay, well, obviously not everybody can have a top 5 halfback, dummy half, fullback, so they'd go and spend a bit more on an edge back row. But when you look at it like that, it seems a little bit out of whack.
And obviously, you can't. This isn't like, oh, you can go and play your best fullback this money. Your salary cap's going to put out a whack.
Yeah.
If you have a few of these different players, so clubs will manage their salary caps differently. But yeah, interesting, very interesting. I thought. I mean, it makes sense. A lot of it does make sense. Hookers is something that I found very strange.
It's fascinating.
We're going to do some season predictions now, Jimmy. So
very early.
It is very early, but we're also only 4 weeks away as well from Las Vegas.
Yeah.
So,
and we've got a couple of trials in the mix as well.
Yeah. So trials actually start in 3 weekends away.
No, it's less than that.
2 weekends away. It is less than that. Not this weekend, but the weekend after.
It is.
Yeah.
Glad you cleared that one up. Panicking.
People would be, oh my God.
Oh, the preseason trial. Oh, I got tickets for this date. Funny one, preseason trials. Different stages, different value.
Would you like to play preseason games?
Given the option, yes. Because if you didn't, you knew you were going to train. So 100%.
Right. But you never would have played that first week of preseason, would you?
There was a couple of times I'd put my hand up, because, like I say, the alternative is...
train your butt off.
Yeah, just get your arse handed to you, which, there is benefits, but... And not looking for the easy option, but just you'd rather play. That's what that was you love. You actually enjoyed playing. I can remember being quite nervous for a few trials actually. One in particular against the Storm. I don't know why. I was just hit with a bucket full of nerves at Belmore. It's like, I don't know. Like,
was the year after you guys played the grand final or anything like that?
No. But it was just weird. It was just like it didn't seem right. Like, we were in at Belmore, but there was a lot of people around.
Yeah, right.
And just it wasn't familiar. It just bucketfuls of nerves.
Were you kind of guy got quite nervous before a game anyway?
I could do.
Yeah.
I could do, but I remember this particular trial just being like, why? Like, what is going on? Like, it's just a trial, but just this horrible feeling.
Would you ever vomit before games or anything like that?
No. Oh, there's a couple of lads who I played with that were chuckers. Just,
Alfie Langer would throw up before every game as well.
Elliot Whitehead was a big one.
Was he?
Yeah, and it was just that noise that he used to make was disgusting. It's like, you're trying to get ready for a game, you just hear Elliot in the back just.
Was he like one of those people who like struggle to breathe while they're vomiting? Like,
I mean, I wasn't observing. I was just trying to think, like, shut up, smell. No. But yeah, pre-season. It's not that far away.
So we're going to do some predictions for the year.
All
team
right.
that's set to rise, team that's set to fall. We're also going to do coach under the most pressure and a superstar who's set to emerge. So why don't we start with your team that's set to rise?
I'm going to go with South Sydney. Yeah. I think the trajectory that they were on last year, up until Latrell Mitchell, they were a genuine top 4 team, in fact, top of the ladder at the time. So if Latrell's back to his best and he can stay fit, they'll be there or thereabouts. Plus, you're throwing Jack White, and be interesting to see how they wear and how they fit Jack into their team, and Isaiah Tass as well. But yeah, I think South are the team that'll really jump back up.
I'm going to go the Tigers. I don't think they'll get into the top 8. But I do think they'll rise from bottom of the ladder, and I think they'll probably get towards that sort of middle part of the bottom 8, bottom 9 now these days, I should say. I think they have got some good players, and they've got guys who've been there for a little bit long now. Like Appy Corus has been there for another year, and Benji Marshall's going to take over that team. And I think you're going to see a little bit of a progression. There's some positive vibes around the club now that they've got rid of the people that they've gotten rid of. And I know they've got Jerome Luai coming next year, but even though he's not there, I think they'll give the players a boost anyway, mentally, that there's positive signs on the horizon. I think they will increase up the ladder. I don't think they'll make the top 8. I'm not saying that. But
I'm really intrigued to see how the Tigers go.
Yeah. And
we spoke about it the other day, didn't we?
Yeah.
It's like things to be excited about. It's Benji Marshall. I'm so excited to see how he goes.
Your team that's set to fall then, Jimmy?
I've gone the Warriors.
Okay.
Like, yeah, they were a great news story. I was loving the vibe over there, loved the atmosphere, loved what it did to the game over in New Zealand. But I just think, Sean Johnson had a magnificent season. Can he have the same level of impact? Can he stay injury-free again? For Noah Blake leaving at the end of the season, how much of a distraction will that be? I don't know. The Warriors, they won't surprise anyone this year. I think they surprised some teams. But yeah, I'm unfortunately sorry, Warriors fans.
I'm going to go.
I mean, it doesn't mean I'm right. It's just
I mean, you could be, and you're not going to be held accountable for this.
No, of course not.
No, I'll remind you about it when they're going good. No, I think the Warriors will. I think they'll probably slide as well. But the team I'm going to go for is the Canberra Raiders. Lost Jack Whiten. Josh Papali'i, I think, is not the same player that he once was. He's obviously now retired from rep football as well, but I don't think he's that same dominant forward. They've got one of the best front rows in the game in
Tarpanay.
Yeah, Tarpanay, yeah. So he's going to go really well, but I think guys like Elliot Whitehead, you good man, you just spoke about him, he's a bit older. I think their spine has a lot of issues to it, and I don't think they've got the quality in the outside backs as well to be a top 8 team again. Let's not forget they were a top 8 team.
Yeah, you forget that, don't you? Yeah, you do forget they were.
Yeah. So I think they'll probably slide. Do you know what? I could honestly see them getting the wooden spoon.
Charlie White. Big call.
Big call. Coach under the most pressure then, Jimmy.
Michael Maguire.
Okay. We're actually going to talk about him very shortly as well.
Michael Maguire.
Even though he's just coming into it now off the back of a Queensland Series win.
If you look at the legitimately the coaches under pressure, he's under the most, I believe.
For 6 weeks a year.
Yeah. But it's pressure on another level.
Is that because it's Madge though a little bit as well? And sort of wherever he goes, pressure seems to follow him anyway.
Yeah. And there'd be lots of question marks about Madge coaching this representative team. Obviously, he did a fantastic job with the New Zealand national team. But the pressure of Origin is, we're all part of the media beast. We see what it's like. And, pressure on in terms of getting that first team selection correct. Yeah, how he manages that, huge amount of pressure, and if it doesn't go well, like I think he only signed a 1-year deal.
Yeah, just a 1-year deal.
You look at the other coaches within the NRL, like I guess the teams that underperformed last year, the two that really spring to mind are the Cowboys and South Sydney. But I think we'll see the resurgence of those two teams.
Do you think it's fair to say then that if this goes wrong for Madge, his head coaching career in the NRL is over?
Define wrong.
Well, they lose. Say they lose 3-0.
Yeah. Oh, if they lose 3-0.
If they lose 2-1 in a tight contest.
Yeah, I mean
that's Origin. That's okay.
I reckon smart judges would be able to see past the result and look at the performance. And maybe he could segue himself back in that way if they don't get the result. But genuinely, in terms of that word pressure, who's sat there now in all the rugby league coaches here in the NRL? It'd be him.
I've got one for you.
Go on.
Trent Robinson.
Wow. Charlie, you full of surprises today. Canberra on the slide.
Yeah.
Trent Robinson under pressure. Explain.
Well, people will probably say I'm an idiot for this because the Sydney Roosters.
Not just because of that.
And Trent Robinson is one of the best coaches in the game. If he was to leave the Sydney Roosters, I'm sure he'd have several clubs lining up to try and get him. And Nick Politis loves Trent Robinson. Trent Robinson's probably going nowhere. But 2 years ago, they got knocked out in week 1 of finals against the Bunnies. The year after last year, they struggled for most of the year, managed to sneak into the 8, nearly got a great win over in Melbourne in week 1 of finals, but it's another knockout week 1 of finals. Sydney Roosters getting knocked out in week 1 of finals is just not good enough. And you look at the squad they've got, you look at the players they've got, their forward pack is unbelievable this year. Like they've brought in 2 great players in Spencer Leniu and Dominic Young. You look at that team, it's just like superstars everywhere. Teddy, then you got the wingers of Dominic Young, Tupu.
Yeah, oh mate, 100%.
Like the Tupu might not even make the team. He might not make the starting 17 for round 1.
He likely won't.
Yeah. So the Suolitis, Manu, like it's just unbelievable. Luke Keary, Sam Walker. If they have another year like last year, I think the pressure's going to come on him. And I think it will come quick. I mean, there were some things last year that didn't go well and the pressure sort of started to build in him a bit, but then the end of the year made everyone sort of move on from that thought pretty quickly. But if the Roosters don't click with the team they have, I think he's probably the coach under the most pressure. And yeah, he might not get sacked if they miss the top 8. But if things keep going on like that, it won't be long before the Roosters do move on from him.
Big if. I think they'll perform this season. Yeah, we saw them have form at the back end of last year. I think that'll continue on, and obviously the couple of additions that they've made, like top quality.
What about your superstar set to emerge?
Ryan Papenhuyzen.
Okay,
I think he's going to go to superstar status. Like we're already seeing glimpses of that, but I reckon he can actually he is like genuine potential, like face of the game superstar.
Yeah.
Really hope we see it. He's such an exciting player to watch.
I hope he stays fit. I hope Tommy Trbojevic stays fit as well. The two of them, just fingers crossed.
Yeah. So I've gone with Ryan Papenhuyzen.
I've gone with Blake Brayley from the Sharks. He's one of the best
You are full of it today, aren't you?
He's one of the best young hookers in the game, and I think he might become the second best hooker in the game this year. I think you'll see Harry Grant's the best hooker in the game. I don't think he can match Harry Grant, but I think he could become the New South Wales hooker this year. I think you could see some special things from him.
Okay.
You reckon that's off the money?
No. I don't think it's like if that came true, I'm not going to be like, oh my God, where did that come from? But well done, Charlie.
If that does come true, will you say well done, Charlie? That's a great pick.
I will. It's obviously subjective, but yeah.
Well, it's not subjective if he does become New South Wales.
Oh, no,
hooker.
sorry. Yeah.
Well, Origin then, just before we go, because we've waffled on a bit, but Origin, you've got the 40-player Blues camp, takes place this weekend, Feb 3 and Feb 4. And it sort of has created a bit of Origin buzz, even though we're miles and miles and miles out from it. Joseph Suaalii is supposedly still on Madge's radar, which is...
Of course he is.
Yeah. But I think there was talk, he's going to Union. Why would you pick him?
Because why are you going to pick him? Because Origin is about winning now.
Yeah, but he won't make... to be fair, I reckon this is a silly story because I don't think he'll make the Origin side anyway.
If he plays well for the Roosters, like because not last year, but obviously he signed for Rugby Union last year, but his form dipped.
So where's he going to play?
On the wing.
So they've got Toto on one wing.
Yeah.
And where's Turbo? Is Turbo going to play in the centres?
Well, last year it was Toto and Adokar.
Yeah.
If surely he plays well, like he could potentially be better than one of those two.
Yeah. But then but where's Suaalii playing for the... Is he going to be playing in the centres? Or is he going to...
I reckon he'll play on the wing. I reckon Billy Smith and Manu will be the centres.
Okay.
Billy Smith was...
Yeah, he was great.
He was amazing last year. Obviously, then they've got that conundrum of Tupu, Young, Suaalii. I hope Donald Young is going to be all right, by the way, because he had a big health scare the back end of last year before that test series against Tonga. But I think with Suaalii, New South Wales, like I say, Madge under pressure already. They're not. This isn't like, oh, we're going to build for the future or we'll see what this is about. They're like, we need to win now. With any player that we've got available, they need to beat Queensland this year. This isn't like for Madge when he was in New Zealand or an Australia. Like, if you're picking the Australian team, don't need Joseph Suaalii anywhere near it because, you build for a World Cup. Origin is about winning the series that's on the line today.
See, I can't see Suaalii getting into the Origin team. He'll have to have an amazing... Because I actually think you'll probably see Toto and Turbo be the wingers. Because
Turbo on the wing?
Yeah, Turbo on the wing. Because I think Latrell's got to be one of the centres, obviously. And I think Bradman Best was so good in Game 3. If he has a good year, he's got to be in the team.
We're already talking Origin before the season's kicked off, hey? Who's going to be your bolter? Yeah, I'm surprised that wasn't your season prediction. Who at round 2 is an Origin bolter?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you who is an Origin bolter. Mitchell Moses. For 5'8". He's put his hand up for it.
I guess we'll see. Jack Whiten as well.
That was the other thing we got to talk about, yeah.
I mean, it's a funny one. When you look at the quality that they've got, like people will say, "Oh, Jack Whiten's that Origin type of player." I think he does love to mix it, and when he performs, he's always up there with New South Wales best, and I think that's got to count for something.
It's interesting though that Jack Whiten, because there was that he might come out of retirement. Obviously, it was a couple of years ago. He was their best player in Game 1. Got COVID, so didn't play Game 2, and then wasn't picked in Game 3. And supposedly there was dramas out of that. I think him and Brad Fittler had a mild falling out over it. In Brad Fittler's defence, New South Wales did win that game 44-12 in Game 2 without him. So it's pretty hard to change the Origin side after something like that.
And they lost the game. He was man of the match, right?
Yes, correct. Yeah.
So, I mean...
Yeah.
Again, this is what it comes back to, that Origin pressure. One selection, and look at the shit that's the fallout of it. And totally justifiable based off the result that
they had in Game 2.
They had in Game 2. Yep. So Brad Fittler's he can't win. The only way he wins is if the team win. But with the situation like Jack Whiten, he can't win.
No, because if he does pick him and leave, say, Burton out, because I think Burton played Game 2 and Game 3, then they'll be like, why wasn't Burton in the team?
Yeah. Why have you changed the winning team?
Yeah.
So, whatever way the wind blows with State of Origin, the press are going to have a field day. Like every writer for all the newspapers, all the TV shows, they love it because whatever happens, there's stories galore.
There is. And speaking of stories galore, this Thursday, Peter Sterling, Blocker Roach, the 1986 Kangaroos Tour.
Charlie.
The best podcast we've ever done?
I think it is. Genuinely. We should have probably talked about this at the top, but Byron listeners, do not miss this. Like, I was sat in between Blocker Roach, Peter Sterling, and was just going, wow, is this really happening? Those two love a yarn, love a tale. And I had the privilege of sitting in between them both, talking about some of the time of their lives. Loved how they spoke about Roy Simmons at the end as well. It's worth listening just for that. But yeah, it was one of those moments. I'm like, wow, this is pretty cool. This is pretty cool to be sat in a sandwich between those two. And you guys will get to hear that this Thursday. Do not miss it. If you like your rugby league, do not miss this.
And we're hoping to keep them coming until the season starts as well, because we've also got the 03 Kangaroos tour, which we were meant to record today, but we're rescheduling to next week. But we've also got Ronaldo Mulatalo and Brandon Smith for the 2021 World Cup, it was called, but it actually was played in 2022, which will be great because Brandon Smith, if anyone saw the interview you did with him when we started the podcast, I was like, we was one of the first guests. Yeah, he has some cracking stories from that.
Yeah, that's
some
a good
amazing
one,
stories.
Yeah. Oh well, yeah. Don't miss that. Don't miss the Kangaroos 86. No better podcast that I've been a part of. But yeah, Charlie, thanks for coming in with a different point of view. Watch out, Raiders. Watch out, Robinson.
Going to comment that I'm an idiot probably for all these things.
Brayley, young Brayley's there at home going like, Charlie White picked me.
It's like Blake Lowry. Blake Lowry, you see, Blake Lowry drafted him, and now he's in this Origin emerging squad as well. 40. He's gonna look at him.
Look what you've done.
If Blake Lowry and Blake Brayley, the two Blakes, play Origin, I'd need $1,000 each from them.
Yeah, you're such an influencer, Charlie, in the world of rugby league. I reckon. Maguire's listened to that podcast and gone, I tell you what, that Charlie White knows his stuff. I'm going to fast track Blake Lowry into
Maybe he'll get me in the Origin side as like a media manager / mentor for the group / vibe guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, present the jerseys. If the Blakes make it, I'm sure I'll get the call to present the jerseys.
Or when they do the video from the family, like, oh, this is what it means. I'm so proud of you. It's like you come on being like, hey, guys, I've been with you all year. I've been saying it from the start. I was laughed at. Ridiculed.
Yeah.
But I'm by your side, guys.
I might even, maybe Madge will give us the privilege of making the call on the podcast to the Blakes.
I reckon.
Yeah.
Someone's secretly filming them at home and hey, it's Charlie White here, just letting you know you've
made it.
Picked.
You made it.
Picked for what?
Yeah.
Your All-Stars team, Charlie? No.
One better
than that.
Just one better.
Just only one better than that.
The Great Blakes.
Yeah, the Great Blakes. All right, well, I think that's a good way to wrap it up. But good to chat with you, Charlie. Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll catch you next week.